to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out. Hey, and welcome to iHeart Intellectual Radio Chronicles of Rohn. I am your host, Alan J. Campbell, a.k.a. The Batman. Hey, what's going on, people? What's going on? All right, a couple of things. Basically, I'm just jump right into this thing here. The first part of the show is just basically going to be about a little politicking, just a little bit of politicking. I'm going to talk about, and I know a lot of people really, it just rubs them the wrong way. But see, that's me. That's how I get out, because I want you to start thinking about things. Let's start with the first thing. A lot of you all out there, this is tax season. Okay? Tax season. And a lot of you all had a nice little, if you got kids or you're claiming dependents, a lot of you all got a nice come up. And I do mean a nice come up, okay? If you got one child, it's $3,000 and some change. If you got two, it's somewhere in the area of $6,000. And if you're getting three, to somewhere in the area between $8,000 and $12,000. So that's a nice little come up for some people. And I'm gonna tell you something. As bad as you all want, as bad as you want, and you don't want to say it, as bad as you don't want to admit it, but that crazy man in the White House that you also affectionately call him, Donald John Trump, have made it possible for you all to receive a lot of that bread, a lot of that money. Made it possible. And I say that only because the previous jackass did not do that. See, this dude here makes it possible for us to do what we want to do and do what we need to do. And very simply put, if we did some of the things that he was doing and suggested we were doing, such as understanding the tax law, the tax code, how it works, certain deductions, certain things that you can use and you can get. He made it possible. And not only that, but see, you're getting less money taken out of your check, but you're getting more of it back. This dude has made it possible. So regardless of what you may think, I'm giving this dude big ups. It's not so much as support, but it's, you know what? It's right is right and wrong is wrong. That's the bottom line. Right is right and wrong is wrong. Okay, this is tax season. But also, this is an election year also. And make no mistake, he didn't do that because of the election. He did that because he wanted people to have more money. He wanted to show people how he got his money. Very simply put, hard work. Nobody ever gave him anything. And it wasn't inherited. He had to work. His father made him go to work, period. His father made it clear. You're not going to get this. I'm not giving you anything. You're going to work just like I did. It's no different than anybody. It's no different than any number one thing what we're supposed to do. No different. But look at it. For those people who had one dependent, you got back 3,000. You had 3,000 and some change. Maybe 32, maybe 3,300 and some change. Okay, look at that. For those who are claiming, see, and what he did is that he opened up the tax bracket to where you can get your maximum. You can have a maximum of 3 dependents and upwards to $8,000 to $12,000. Upwards to $8,000 to $12,000. Okay, for most people, that's a lot of money to do a lot of different things. If some of you jackasses don't mess around and blow it on some stupid shit, truth be told. The idea is that when you're in a position like that, you want to take that money, you want to look at ways of building, ways of investing. It may not, you don't have to necessarily need a lot, you don't necessarily have to take a lot, but these are things that you have to, you want to start considering. Instead of saying, well, the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to go buy me a car. Find something that you're going to, that is going to build equity. What you need to think about doing is finding out how you can buy a parcel of land. Because if you own the land, there's not a whole lot people can do. They have to come see you. Then you can charge rent, and all you have to pay is the taxes on it. You have to be smart about that. Definitely smart about that. Now, moving on to the part about the election. Okay, this past weekend they held the South Carolina caucus, and Joe Biden, Joe Brickhead Biden, he won down there. Now, if anyone understands that, what that is, that the caucuses are what it is that when the candidates that are running, they gather delegates. These are a certain number of electoral votes that they gather in order to kind of make their way to to the level of nomination by their party. Okay, whether it's the Republican Party, whether it's the Democratic Party. Right now, you got two guys out in front, Bernie Sanders, and who's currently out in front, and Joe Biden, who is running a close second. Now, with that being said, there are a lot of people that have dropped out of the presidential race within the last 3 weeks. People like Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, and just recently, we had three more presidential candidates drop out. You had Amy Klobuchar, I call her Amy Coleslaw. You've had Tom Steiger, who's a billionaire, once again a billionaire, and you had Pete Buttigieg, the former mayor from South Bend, Indiana. Now, here's the thing that I here's the issue that I have with all of these people. The understanding by our forefathers, and I need you to listen very carefully. The understanding by our forefathers was that anyone could run for an elective office. And at one point, it wasn't about how much money you spend. It wasn't about that. It wasn't about it. It wasn't. It was about getting out, meeting the people, and convincing people why you should be their candidate, why they should vote for you, why you feel that you are the best individual to hold that job. This is what this really boils down to. Now we're into an age where it's about money, to where, and I said this once before, to where an average Joe, such as myself, if I wanted to run, I couldn't, because I couldn't afford to run. I thought the understanding was that anyone could run. I thought money didn't have anything to do with it, but that's the misconception. Money has everything to do with it. Everything to do with it. You take Tom Steiger, who's a billionaire, put in a lot of his own money. You take Michael Bloomberg, who have put in a lot of his own money. Michael Bloomberg, the understanding right now, the running estimate, the running cost right now is said to be that he has put in 30 million. Now, Michael Bloomberg is once again self-made millionaire. He has put in $30 million of his own money, $30 million. Tom Steiger, close second, somewhere in the area of $40 million. And these two guys, but Tom Steiger just didn't got. He won. He just couldn't get his base going, so he had to drop out. Amy Klobuchar, she dropped out. Same thing with Pete Buttigieg. These three individuals dropped out. Now, Amy and Peter. Now they're both gonna jump on a plane and fly to Texas and throw their support behind Joseph Biden. See, what we're seeing here, people. And if you all had if you had a by chance, if you had to watch the presidential debate from the Democrats and saw how they were attacking one another, this is what it looks like when snakes are attacking each other. There are no friendlies. There are no friendlies. None whatsoever. And the unfortunate part is that we as black people, we fall into this sleepwalking attitude. Now, Joe Biden went to South Carolina and he got the support of another Democrat, a black congressman. And this black congressman came out and said, and I quote you not, he said or he stated that um, we know, meaning what he was doing is he was trying to garner all African Americans or black people to get behind Joe Biden. And his words were, "We know Joe Biden, and Joe Biden knows us." That had to have been the most oxymoronic statement I've ever heard this nigga make. Really. We know Joe Biden, and Joe Biden knows us. First of all, I don't know Joe Biden. First of all, I'm not rich. I didn't have anybody pay my way through college. I didn't have anybody recommend me for a scholarship, a scholarship that was by the president. I don't ever recall anybody doing that for me. So how could I know Joe Biden? Here's the other part. How can Joe Biden know black people? How could he know me? He's never been black. He'll never be black. He can't be black. Joe Biden has never had a poor plate of food in his life. He doesn't know what it is to have a plate of beans and some cornbread and nothing to wash it down with. He doesn't know. So how does this congressman say that Joe Biden knows black people? See, once again, this is us buying into the stupidity. This is us again buying into the stupidity. Buying into it. Like I said, before I get too far in the show, if you got a comment or you got a comment or want to join into this conversation, give me a call here at the station at 708-223-8953. That's 708-223-8953. And this portion of the show is brought on Intellectual Radio. Chronicles of Rohn is brought to you by Captain Hooks. So, how can any white politician know black people? See, we have to realize, understand that we have always been the backbone of all politics. Always have been, always will be. This guy's standing up there like the proverbial slave master. If any of you all have seen the movie Django, that was that scene with Joe Biden and the black congressman was indicative of a scene in Django when you had the character Calvin Candy and the proverbial term, the house nigger, Steven, and how everything he was saying, it was concerning how we should be functioning amongst white people. It doesn't work that way, people. Doesn't work that way at all. Everything. Now, when we get to talking about the level of politics and where we are, we have to remember now, there's certain rights we don't have. There's still no, it's just an act. There's no voters' rights law. It's just an act. There's certain portions of the Constitution that we're still not a part of. In the Constitution, it still states that we are 3/5 of a man. So once again, how can white politicians know black people? They can't. They don't. There's no way possible. No way possible for that to happen. No way possible. Now, my honest opinion is that when we move forward towards the presidential nomination, my guess would be that either Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders will get the party's nod. That individual will be the Democratic nominee. One of the two. Even if they do, these guys are not strong enough to beat Donald Trump. Make no mistake about that. Make no mistake about that. And I say that because too many people are watching this very closely. Now, moving over to the Republican side, moving over to and discussing the things that Donald Trump is doing. What's happening is that Donald Trump he's racking up a lot of wins politically. That's how you win elections, by making good on your campaign promises. One campaign promise that he has fulfilled is that he stated that he is going to he's going to bring home American forces out of the Middle East, meaning Afghanistan. They're bringing them home. Just the other day, just over the weekend, our time Saturday, their time Sunday, the United States and the Taliban signed a peace treaty agreement. The understanding is that we will leave Afghanistan in 14 months as long as the Taliban abides by the rules, guidelines, and sanctions that have been set forth, meaning that they cannot participate or harbor anyone or or give aid to a country that supports terrorism. To a certain degree, I mean, think about it. To a certain degree, I think that's a fair trade. Fair trade. Now, we're going to see what's going to happen because right about now, they're instituting what they call a drawdown, meaning that they're slowly but surely are starting to bringing these guys back home because we should have never been there in the first place. I mean, this war has been going on for 18 years. It started September 11, 2001, and we've been there ever since. It's time for these guys to come home. He fulfilled that. He fulfilled that campaign promise of getting these guys, bringing these guys home and ending the war. You can't be you can't be angry about that. You can't be mad at the man about that. He's doing exactly what he's saying to do. He's doing that exactly. Not only that, here's another bullet point. The Supreme Court has upheld the Trump administration concerning sanctuary cities, about funds to sanctuary cities, meaning that the Supreme Court has ruled in favor to saying that the Justice Department has the right to put conditions on any type of federal money that a city receives. I don't see what the problem is. What the problem is? It's actually, if you think about it, it was no different than Trump saying to the Ukraine president, "Listen, you want this money, you got to this. These are the conditions in order to get this money." Basically, this is the nature of politicking business. It's bartering. It's no different what we would do as regular people. Hey, if you want this, this is what has to be done. This is how we're going to get. This is how it's going to work. This is exactly how it's going to work. Make no mistake about it. So, with that being said, the head of the Taliban agreed. They sat down and they signed the documents. Say, okay, now we're going to start drawing down, and we should be completely out of it. Now, what this does is that this carries into the next presidency, whoever that may be, whoever that may be. Not only that, but he's still racking. The killing part is that he's still racking up wins with trade agreements, with and calling out a lot of other individuals about fake news and certain other things. He's putting things in place, and the people, and they're just not. What he's done is that he's just exposed Washington for what she really is, a bad business person. That's what it is, and he's trying to bring that back to the table on how business should be done, how it should be conducted. And there are certain rules, and there are certain conditions that have to be met in order to achieve a common goal. It's just relatively simple. I know a lot of people, I know a lot of you probably listen, and you're thinking, every time you turn around, this dude is, Trump this and Trump that, he's for Trump. It's not about being for him. It's about citing what is right. I don't have to like a person to say that they're right. I don't have to. There's nothing to say that I have to like you. If you're right, you're right. Very simply put, if you are right, you are right. And every single solitary thing that he's doing is absolutely along the letter of the law. The thing about the sanctuary cities and withholding money, I think you damn right he should. You don't want to give us the information, or you don't want to help us in catching some of these individuals, then you're not getting the money. Prime example. This is a strong argument on why conditions should be set on money given to sanctuary cities. Roughly about a week ago, and I know probably some of you heard about this in the news, to where there was an incident that happened at the Rock and Roll McDonald's, the McDonald's flagship that is on LaSalle in Ohio. And this individual, excuse me, this individual sexually assaulted a 3-year-old girl in the bathroom. Okay, 3 years old, sexually assaulted her. So about a week later, Chicago police managed to catch and arrest this individual for this incident. Now, here's the part. Here's the part that that goes to what Trump is saying about immigration and how how we have to tighten the borders. The individual that was arrested, the individual that was arrested had already been deported once before for a violent crime. And the understanding is very simply put, if you are an illegal immigrant and you have been charged and you've been arrested, charged, and convicted of a crime, and most importantly, a violent crime, that in itself is enough to have you exited out of the country or deported. Now, this individual had been deported once before, came back, slipped back in, and then this is what happened. Then he was arrested. Once he came back, came back here. He committed another crime, and this is prior to him allegedly assaulting the 3-year-old. He came back here to Chicago, committed another crime. ICE, or the Immigration Customs Enforcement, asked Chicago police to hold this guy until they could get him, or hold because of his immigration status having already been deported once, which means that he was here illegally. CPD, under the mandate from our Lori Lightfoot, our mayor, said that CPD will not participate in any immigration customs enforcement business. Long story short, she made it clear that she gave a mandate to the police department: do not help ICE. Okay. Had he been put on a hold, an immigration hold, this guy, and not to say that it wouldn't have happened, but this guy would not have had the opportunity to do what he's accused of doing. Had ICE had grabbed him before he was released from CPD. That's my point. That is my point. I have no problem with immigration. I have no problem with immigrants. I have no problem with anyone doing what they're supposed to do, doing the right thing. You come here, you come through the proper port of entry, and you have your paperwork together. You come across the border, you swim across the border in a tube, fly, whatever it may be, and you're not doing it the legal way. You deserve to get caught. You deserve to be put in detention. Because here's the thing. As when we were brought here from Africa, when we were brought here, and if we ran away from our plantation, they did the same thing. They had bounties out. They had bounty hunters, slave catchers, and if you were caught by a slave catcher, you were immediately. Two things they could do: they could catch you and collect the bounty, which means that they would kill you and say that you were killed in an attempted escape, or that you would be returned to the state of you would be returned to a state of slavery, not necessarily the state that you had escaped from, but any state, any state south of the Mason-Dixon line, you would be returned. But see, we had no choice on coming here. These individuals had a choice, or so they say. Or so they say. The next thing that's going to be happening to it, and mark my words, people, when the Supreme Court, when this immigration thing finally is heard by the United States Supreme Court, mark my words, you heard it here first, that the Supreme Court is going to side with the Trump administration on immigration. They're going to side with the fact that that DACA is illegal. You cannot arbitrarily grant people asylum or amnesty for knowingly breaking the law. Or let me rephrase that. You cannot reward people for this. You can't. These are people that are breaking the law, and then you're going to reward them. You can't do that. It's unconstitutional, because last I checked, anything I do good, I don't get a reward for. I barely get a pat on the back from society. This is where we're at, people. We're at the crossroads of where we want to be and where we should be. We're at the crossroads. We truly, truly are. Once you know, when you really, really think about it, truth be told, when you really think about it, and now that the Supreme Court is really and make no mistake, this is the most that I've seen the Supreme Court actually take an active role in a lot of court cases. This is I've I've watched the Supreme Court. I've followed the justices on on what's going on, what's going on, what's being heard, and things of that nature. But this is the most that I've seen the Supreme Court be this active. Now, and that's only to say because what you have nine justices, nine. And out of the nine, you have five conservative justices and you have four liberals. Okay. Now, Chief Justice John Roberts, he is what they consider the swing vote. So but John Roberts is more of a conservative. But if it's something that just doesn't seem constitutionally right, then naturally he's going to side he's going to side with the most conventional, or or let me rephrase it, he's going to side with conventional law. What does the Constitution say, and how is it interpreted? And the best thing about that, you just can't have just any old person sitting on the United States Supreme Court. These are people who have to understand the letter of the law, the interpretation of the law, and most importantly, understand these are people who are constitutional judges. I'm sorry, constitutional lawyers. So once that happens, and now you understand, this is why a lot of these decisions are being made. This is why this is happening. Right now, in lower courts in certain states, they are now actually getting ready to mandate that transgender individuals, meaning that boys that want to be girls, they're no longer going to be allowed to participate in girls sports, or most importantly in girls track, because what happens is that it's giving them an unfair advantage. Right now there are two girls in Pennsylvania, I believe, Pennsylvania, who are suing the school board because they have two transgender individuals, and these two out of 13 races, I'm sorry, out of 15 races, these two transgender individuals have won 13 of them. I do agree. It's an unfair advantage. It's no different. If no different, if when you have a transgender woman wanted to a transgender man wanted to be in the world of boxing, and I don't want to get too far away, but this is the direction we're headed, where we're talking about politics and court law, to where a lot of the Supreme Court is going to become involved in a lot of these disputes, and the Supreme Court is the say all be all. It's final. And there was also a court case, and I believe this was in Nevada, to where this guy went from man to woman and wanted to box and wanted to be a female boxer in the women's league. The other female boxers refused to fight him because it's a disadvantage. It's going to hit harder, and no one wants to be a part of that. There's a certain part of us, you all, that we have to understand. We're not supposed to be in this particular area. We're not supposed to be. We definitely are not. We definitely are not. Now, moving away from politics, I want to go into another thing. I want to go into this thing that concerning marriage. I want to go into that in the second half of the show. Now, let's and a couple of things, and I don't talk a lot about myself, but I'm going to um, go into a small portion of that. Now, here's the thing: when we talk, let me do it this way. When we get to talking about marriage, the unfortunate part is that you have one individual that may have the perception or the concept of what they think it should be, because that's the way you thought, that's the way you were taught, that's what you saw. A lot of us possibly did. Okay, me growing up, you see, I saw my parents and the way that they acted or the way they functioned or interacted or didn't interact or the way they didn't function. So you kind of have to. It's kind of like a juggling act, so to speak. It really is. And understanding the premise, you get a lot of people that say, well, you know what? Oh, I just want to get married. Well, you know what? Let's just jump up and do it. What the hell? Wait, you just can't do that because 99 out of 100, when you jump up and do something, it's not going to end well. It is going to go down in a flaming pile, a flaming heap, a flaming pile of shit on fire, cooking because you didn't do it right. You cannot base it on something you cannot base it on what you see your friends or how your friends are functioning or how your parents are functioning. You can't base on how you want your life to go or your marriage to go. You cannot do that because they didn't know what they were. Had no blue. They didn't know what they did. This was a learning experience. It's a learning curve. It's learning. Everything you do when you start talking about taking on the role or or levels of responsibility, you are learning this. Once you get to a point, when I decided, and I'll be the first one to admit this. Sometimes we get married out of, to spite other people. Sometimes we get married because that's what we think we want to do. And sometimes we get married because this is what we're told to do. Somebody got pregnant and they were told, oh, this is what you got to do. Okay. Each individual, it's based on the individual. It's based on what and how they want to proceed. It's based on what they know. It's based on what they've learned. It's based on what you're being taught. And even to a point, sometimes it's even based on how scripture tells us. It's based on that. A lot of this is based on, but a lot of it is a learning experience. It's learning it. It's understanding this. First of all, let me kind of break it down a little bit. First of all, okay, if and this is towards the men. First of all, men, okay, we have been told and taught that we have to be we that we are the head of our household. We are the providers. We are the overseers. We are the governed. We are to govern. This is what we're told that we are to do. But first of all, we have to in order to understand it, in order to understand what that is to be a man, you have to understand what your duties and responsibilities are. You have to understand that. You have to fully understand what your role is. You have to understand. We have to, and that comes from possibly listening to the men who are in our lives, say our fathers, or our uncles, or other mentors, watching these men operate and function in an environment, watching these people. Growing up, I saw several. Growing up, I watched my dad to a certain degree, but then I watched the other men, the other men that he associated with that were in his life, and watched how they did things, how they functioned, how they conducted themselves, what they did when it came to their house, what they did when it came to their family, what they did. And the unfortunate part, and this is the truth, people, the unfortunate part is that my father displayed that he did not have a lot of these qualities that these other men had. So a lot of things that I learned from other people. And it's unfortunate, it's a shame to say, but that's the gospel truth. That is the gospel truth. Having to make hard decisions, that's part of being a man because you have to look at the greater good. You have to look at the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. You have to look at that. There are points and times where you are with someone and you can't tell them everything because you're trying to figure it out in your head yourself. But at the same time, when it does come together and they don't realize how much of a struggle it was for you to put it together so the both of you can survive, or can function or maintain, there are things that you may never know. And I'm saying, women, you may never know this, but that's his job. That's his job. Now, to pause on that moment, going to the uh, women's side, women, ladies, you have to understand what your role is. You have to understand what your position is. That being is that not to nag, not to have a lot of mouth, not to say things that are out of place. Understand your role, understand your place. The whole idea is for you to be a listening ear, but also don't be the one that don't be that individual that continues to push individuals away because you're nagging or you're complaining or you're not functioning in the manner that you should. And when I say function, I'm referencing just basic things, housekeeping, basic things, uh, 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 bill management, money management, personal upkeep. If you have children, keep helping, assisting and assist in keeping them in line. Everybody has a job. Everyone has a responsibility, have a duty. They have that. There's a portion. There's a portion in scripture, and Paul said this. He said it best. Okay, and he was referencing this. And he was saying this to the Corinthians. You know, if you can't control your desires, then you should get married. I told you know what, to a certain degree, I totally understand that. I get it, and I understand that. But at the same time, you're acting on it. You're responding to emotions. Well, you can't control yourself. Well, there's a level of control. There's a level of they call abstinence. You work on it or you don't. One of the two. But a lot of us are in that category or in that window. We are. We are in that category, in that window. There we are. So what we do, we have to, we have to, if we can do a better job. We can try to straighten it up, but we can build on a lot of different things. And I've said this before, one of the key things in involving a marriage is a strong foundation. There has to be a marriage is a business arrangement. And I know you kind of people are raising one eyebrow and looking crazy like a business. Yeah, at the end of the day, yes, it is. It's a business arrangement because you all agreed to participate in something together. You're saying, well, I'm gonna put in this, and you gonna put, and I'm gonna put in that. We're going to commingle things together to where to where if you're with someone, here's a level of commingling. You all may be in the kitchen cooking together, but there has to be there. But you all understand there's an understanding to where okay, you can't get in each other's way too. Okay, what do you need me to do? Well, if you wouldn't mind starting the mashed potatoes, and then I'm gonna do the gravy, and or if you do this and I'll do that. There's a level of compromise. There's a level of compromise. Marriage is a business. It is compromise. It is give and take. It is level of reciprocation. There are a number of things. There are number of things that I can list. There's a list of things I can just tell you. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the understanding on what you're supposed to be doing, then it's going to be a car crash looking for a place to happen. That's exactly what's going to be. And I say that because in my when I was married, and I say when I was married, and that was and that was to, and make no mistake. I don't, I love my children, and I wouldn't trade them for anything in the world. Make that mistake. But sometimes, you wind up hooking up with the wrong person, and this happens. Now, the biggest issue is that she didn't understand what her duties were, and that's only because she wasn't taught. And the unfortunate part, there are a lot of people out there as well, and men too. They're not taught what their roles are, what your duties are, what it consists of. They're not taught, and so therefore you're going. So at the same time, so now you're looking at someone else's blueprint, which could be completely jacked up. Or sometimes you'll hear women say, or they'll hear their girlfriends talk about how great their marriage is, or how this and how that. Well, that's what they're telling you, but you don't live with them every day. You don't know that. That's what they're telling you. You might you may see the outer shell, the facade that they might be putting in, but you don't go home with them. You're not a fly on the wall. You don't know when them doors close. They could be going at it like two street brawlers. You don't know. So sometimes we have to be careful on what we want, what we ask for, because sometimes it may not be what we want or what we need. Then you have to ask yourself, then you ask this question to yourself, and men, and this is for both men and women. You ask yourself this question: do I want to be married, or do I need to be married, or do I want to be married? You got to understand, in the word marriage, that's just a word. It's just a word. Marriage is just the union. It is the collaboration of two people. The collaboration of two people. And when you have the collaboration of two people, everybody's got a job to do. There's a role that you have to fulfill. If you if you all start a business together, you have to ask your partner, hey, I'm finished. This is a business. I'm doing I'm going to bake pies or something like that, and I may need you to help me with bookkeeping. Well, you got to actually, first of all, you need to get that established before you even go on further. Say, is this something? He ask him? Is this something that he wants to even be involved in? He may not. This may not be his cup of. This may not be his cup of tea. It may be his dark side of the moon. He may not want to be that. This may not be for him. But you have to ask these questions. You have to get an understanding before you move into because you don't want to assume. You got to realize this is something that you want to do, and you want to incorporate someone. This may not be for them. You have to get that understanding. The same thing, fellas. You're starting something. You decide that you're going to do a clothing line, or whatever it may be. You're going to sell. You're going to sell watermelons on the side of the road. You have to ask her, is this something that you want to be a part of? Hey, this is why I'm looking at the bigger picture to where 5 years from now we could be sitting somewhere having some having margaritas with umbrella drinks, sitting somewhere. But ladies, don't look at it for the long. Don't look at it in that aspect, because it is a job. It is a job. It is a role. Once you cross the broom, once you say I do, you have punched in. There are no off days. There are no vacation days. There are no PTO days. None of that. Period. So that means that it's an everyday thing. Everyday thing. Fellas, the same principle. It's the same thing. The door swings both ways. There are no PTO days. There are no off days. There are no vacation days. None of that. Because the both of you have agreed that this is what we're going to do. You have agreed upon that. And when you reach the agreement, then you have to stay the agreement. Now, sometimes, and now at the end of my run of my marriage, I you know This was a person, and it was a learning. It was a learning experience. But make no mistake about that. It was a learning curve. It was a learning curve because I actually took pages I looked at a very bad blueprint. That's the truth. A very bad blueprint. I'm trying to build an airplane that with no wheels, hoping that maybe miraculously that when I landed, the wheels will pop out. No, it's just never going to happen. And sometimes we have to take responsibility for that. And sometimes that's of our own doing. So with that being said, it is a regular it's a regular 9 to 5 job. Aside from now understand, aside from your regular money making 9 to 5 job, your marriage is a 24/7. 24/7. There's an understanding that has to be met. There's a foundation that has to be laid. You just can't up and say, "Oh well, because this is what we've been doing, that it should work." No, let's see. That's the wrong concept because you're looking at what you want to see and not opposed to what you think may happen. You have to look at every single solitary thing, and that's the part where if you've been married, you should reevaluate things. You should look at them a little closely. You should look at, hey, is this person doing everything they possibly can to provide a conducive environment for me, or for me, him, or and us? Is this person doing that? Is this person capable of doing that? We're not talking about some knucklehead going out here slinging dope. We're not talking about some knucklehead who's out here hustling car tires. We're talking about an individual who's going out here to an everyday 9 to 5 job, and he's making things happen. He's putting together deals. He has people under his authority. He's making these things happen. So at the end of the day, when he comes in and you see and you see the things that he's done, and at the same time you are benefiting from the fruits of his labor. When you're sitting there and you're talking about when he says, well, this is what I'm gonna do. Well, you need to get something. Okay, well, here's here, go get what you want, or you want to go get your nails and hair done and your feet done or whatever. Okay, there, we got it. You want to be able to be in that position. You want that person to be in a position to where you are able to you have enough to maintain, not enough to survive. That's what's wrong now. We're doing too much surviving and not enough maintaining. Not enough. That's the thing that we have to understand. When you are in a marriage, you don't want to survive a marriage. You want to maintain a marriage. When they had that nonsense concerning R. Kelly, surviving R. Kelly. Okay, now a lot of that was about his wife. A lot of that his wife was talking about and other people. Well, according to her, she lived in a night. This was a nightmare, a hellhole, and all this kind of carrying on. Okay, we you know what? There's just some things you just don't do. You just don't do. I would never throw my ex-wife, under, in front, not on television in front of my kids. I would never throw her under the bus. There's just something that you just don't do, despite how it ended, how it blew up, imploded, whatever. You just don't do that. You just don't do that. I'm just truly against that. You just don't. The other thing, you just don't. You get women that will do things that will just say, because they're not happy. Okay, then you need to say why you're not happy, or figure out. Then once you have identified why, then you try to move toward the other side and say, okay, what can we do differently? How can we fix this? How can we rectify this? If you all are building something together, if you all have decided this is what you're going to do, and you decide that you're going to build something, you keep building until it reaches a certain level of satisfaction, a level of comfortability, a level of satisfaction, to where now you say, okay, now where do we go from here? What do we do now? Okay, this is what we do, and now we can move to this because we're no longer don't be in a position of surviving. Put yourself in a position of maintaining. You don't want to be that individual, and this is for both men and women. Ladies, you don't want to be that woman that you're living from, that you're going from paycheck to paycheck, or there's never not enough money in your own household to do the things you need to do or function. Same thing, fellas. And I have to really go in hard on the fellas because there's really no excuse for you to live the way you do, living paycheck to paycheck. If you're doing that, you're doing something seriously wrong. Because if you're doing that, how in the world are you going to be able to maintain a marriage? How are you going to do that? I know that because and the fact that I said because I see my own parents do it. They survived the marriage. They were surviving in the marriage. They weren't maintaining. Each one of them paycheck to paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. Each I kid you not, paycheck to paycheck. And I said and I just refuse to live like that from paycheck to paycheck. No. At the end of the day, okay, well whenever my money hit, I get this. It's more than what I had from last week, and it continues to build, continues to build, continues to build because you want to be able to maintain. To maintain. The operative word in there, people, concerning a marriage is maintain. You want to have a little bit more than what you need and less than what you have. That's what you want. That's how you should. And I'm understanding this is only my opinion. Only my opinion. When you are moving into the direction of a lifelong commitment, because this is what it is, you are punching in. It's a job. Understand that. Everybody has a job. Everybody has a role. Everyone. If we go further back biblically, Eve had a job to do. She had a job. Period. She was instructed what her job was. Moving past that, Noah's wife, she had a job. Going further, Abraham's wife, Sarah, she had a job to do. As we move forward, and we have to understand that even though we have to understand that the part of the job, it is not to be, and fellas understand this is not what I'm saying to you to do. What I'm saying is that she has a job, she has a role to do. And it is not and it's not and the understanding is that it's not for the man to be oppressive. That is not what you were to do. Not to do. The idea is to work in unison with one another. Hey, this, and this. But at the same time, people, and this also for ladies, this is also that doesn't mean that if there's something that you are able and capable of doing, that doesn't mean that you have to sit on your lazy behind and not do it. Or as they say, ain't nothing, hey, your legs ain't broken. Let's get a move on. Everybody has a job to do. Everybody. And the only way that it works, and years ago, be up until actually before 1965, that's how black men and black women functioned and operated. They worked together, and on top of that, the black man was the pinnacle, and the black woman, he was the head, and the black woman was his confidant. She was basically the glue of the family, the glue of the family, up until a point to where they begin to separate us. And now we're separated, and now we've lost, and now a lot of us have lost our way. It's not that we can't get that back. It's just that we have to understand our position, where we need to be. Ladies, if you're gonna be with that man, if you're gonna be with someone, don't be the reason on why it continues to shatter. Be the glue. Help him fix it. Fellas, Don't be the reason on why she's shattered. Don't be the reason why she's shattered. Help her fix it. And then when we're able to help each other fix our problems, then we apply the glue to where nothing or nobody can pull us apart and break us apart. When we get to that point. But we have to get there first. And the only way we get there is together. The only way we get there is that we build the foundation, is that we lay the foundation. Help lay the foundation. First of all, it's slow and steady always wins the race. Slow and steady wins the race. Enjoy the journey to getting there, because see, at that point, you all can look back at the trials and tribulations that you had, that were once there, that you had, that got you to the point of jubilation and triumph. Slow and steady wins the race, people. But I'm looking in the distance. I see the lights flashing and the helicopters are about to land. So what that means, that's all the time that we got here on iHeart Intellectual Radio, the Chronicles of Rohn. This portion of the show was of iHeart Intellectual Radio. Chronicles of Rohn was brought to you by my man Alex down there at Captain Hooks at 85th and Cottage Grove, 103rd and King Drive, and 15922 South Kedzie in Markham. Hey, and with that being said, in closing, not my monkey, not my circus. I'm headed to the Batcave.
Let's go. Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.